With the new My Lowe's Pro Rewards American Express card, earn 3 points per dollar spent on Lowe's qualifying purchases for the first 6 months after card account opening. Plus, save 5% every day on eligible purchases at Lowe's and earn points on eligible purchases everywhere else Amex is accepted. Card members get more at Lowe's. Subject to credit approval. 5% can't be combined with any other offer. Exclusions and restrictions apply. Points subject to loyalty terms at Lowe's.com/terms and credit reward terms at Synchrony.com/MLPRA-terms. Visit Lowe's.com/business credit.
Looking for these better days.
It is Friday, May 29th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. It's the two greatest words in all of sports. Game 7. That's what we'll have in the NBA's Western Conference Finals after the Spurs rout the Thunder 118-91 last night in game number 6. Mackenzie Rivers joins me on this episode of Better Day presented by FanDuel. And Mackenzie, this series, which has gone back and forth, has yet to see a close game that comes down to the wire. I mean, yeah, listen, we did have an overtime, right? But still, this series has had an average margin of victory of 15.3 points, and last night was no different. No different as forget about the spreads. Just lay the wood, lay the alternate spread. I hope we don't get that in Game 7. But last night did not surprise me to see the Spurs win and win big.
Yeah, the modern NBA is actually a lot like the 80s NBA. I was looking back at Celtics-Lakers, famously played a bunch of times in the finals. In 84, there was a 23-point win. In 85, each team had a 25-point win. So it's not unheard of in the NBA, but it's definitely more common today than it was in the 90s or in the 2000s. You look at the average margin of victory and wins, it's a 3-point league. There's a lot of huge runs like the Spurs saw in the third quarter where the Thunder missed 14 consecutive shots, and none of them looked close. None of them you thought they were going in. It wasn't like they were just bad shooting. They were just overwhelmed and ready and already thinking about Game 7.
Yeah, 22-point run there for the Spurs. That was certainly one aspect of the game that went right for them. What else went right for the Spurs last night?
Oh, Victor Wembanyama looked like the best player in the world like he did in Game 1 and in Game 4. I think he scored 8 of their first 10 points, hit a couple threes, and defensively, I think it might have been his best game defensively. It's very rare to see a 7-footer fade away in the NBA or any league. It's much more rare to see a 7-footer fade away and get blocked at the same time. It's unbelievable the type of dimensions that Victor Wembanyama brings to the game and his attitude. He was better. He did what I thought SGA failed to do in the first quarter. We were talking about last game. He had a very bad first quarter, bunch of misses, bunch of turnovers. This was the opposite. He said, all right, let me and I feel like it might be in his head, all the noise about him. He's like, let me just see if I can get my teammates involved. He was 2 for 2 to start with a couple assists, very passive. And then when he needed to turn it on, because the Thunder are not going to get 80 good shots from the other guys without him, he had a malfunction. It could not get into gear. Started up 2 for 2, 4 for 14 the rest of the way. I've been defending him, obviously, this series. I didn't think he had played badly or as badly as people have said. This was his lowest scoring total of the season, playoffs or regular season, and by far his worst game, in my opinion. But that seems to be a theme for the Thunder. They lost Game 6 to the Nuggets. They lost Game 6 to the Pacers in the finals last year in like kind of embarrassing fashion, and this one was no different. They're banking on that Thunder crowd in Game 7.
It's also the fewest amount of free throws that he's attempted in a game here in these playoffs. Only
and
3 free throws.
I know if you listen to my rant in the last show, and 9 out of 10 of you probably disagreed because everyone seems to think he's a foul baiter that's only propped up by the league wanting him to succeed. Well, Exhibit A was in my face in this game because this was the game where he didn't get those marginal calls, and this is the worst game of the season. I will say, if he would have gotten 3 of those marginal calls and 6 free throws and scored 21 points, it still would have been a rout. Like, that was not the difference. The refs were definitely, which I want to see all the time in all the games, letting him play a little bit more, and that doesn't work to his advantage. But that's not why he, in my opinion, had such a bad game. I thought he started off too passive. He can't rely on his teammates, like I said, to get 80, 90 good shots. There's just not enough other advantages out there. He's going to have to be great.
Well, our first quarter system came through
Gotcha.
yesterday in a big way with the Spurs winning the first quarter 35-22. We talked on yesterday's pod about even doing the Spurs team total over 27.5 in the first quarter. So if you played that, you came through with that winner as well. And now updating the system here in these playoffs. 21 wins, 7 losses, 1 push on the first quarter money line when you back the team that lost the previous game in the series that is now listed as the favorite. And that does unlock the system once again for game
Yep.
7 coming up tomorrow night, Mackenzie, in OKC, where the Thunder are 3.5 point favorites over the Spurs, low total of 212.5. And so that's obviously baking in game
Mhm.
7 unders, of course. But what do you think about the Thunder laying 3.5 at home?
I think there's a couple advantages to the first quarter bet. And people said after game 5, it was kind of the first time the Spurs inexperience showed up. I think game 7 historically is where the veterans have a little bit more cool, calm, and collectiveness about them. It's like a 27 versus a 22-year-old. So it's not the exact like old man versus young up and comer. It's a little bit early in that process for both of them. But I do think the Thunder will be much calmer to start game 7, won't have that will be able to hit their shots with a little bit more consistency like they do at home in general, SGA as well as the others. So I think the Spurs might be their match. They've won now
Mm.
what 7 out of 11 games against them. Would not bet against them in the game. And obviously, if you're going to bet them not plus 3.5, but maybe minus 3.5. The way the
Yeah.
NBA is played
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yep.
But for the first quarter, I like to let's keep it going. I like the system.
Oh yeah, we're not backing off of the system. What do you feel about the total? So last night's game goes under the 219 with 209 points scored, and obviously we know about the history of game sevens that go towards the under. The market adjusting clearly to
Mhm.
12.5. Do you think it's too much of an adjustment, or do you still like this being an under game?
I still like it being an under game. Again, both best players and teams are relatively inexperienced. Game 7, I feel like it's going to be a different experience than they're used to, and they're going to be a little nervous. And also, just they ran out of ideas. Both teams at different parts in this series. There's not a lot of advantages, and I think the way coaches are going to approach that is to push off a miss, and you always want to get the easy ones, but not have a lot of misses, not have a lot of bad turnovers. I think they're going to keep it close to the vest. I like the under here. And in general, I mean, the Thunder have had their lowest, second lowest, third
Mhm.
lowest scoring of the season in this series. And the Spurs have also been stymied several times. So I could see it being 102 to 100.
All right. Well, since the start of the 2021 season, we have had 17 game sevens in the NBA playoffs. The home team, 8-9, straight up and against the spread, totals 9-8 to the over. So interesting
Market's
stuff
pretty
there.
sharp. Market we
Market,
talked about it
yep.
enough in 2019, 2020, and now the market has fully caught on. So the 7 point adjustment from game 6 is it's probably fair. Maybe don't load up on the under, but I do think it's an under. The interesting thing is how
Well,
home court used to mean everything in game 7. It just hasn't recently.
but let me ask you something here because you say the market has caught up. Okay. Let me read you the last couple of game sevens and the results. So earlier in these playoffs, Pistons Cavs, total of 204.5. That game went over. Then you have earlier in these playoffs, the Cavs and the Raptors, total of 209.5. The game goes over. You had Magic Pistons earlier in these playoffs, total of 200.5. The game goes over. And then Celtics Sixers earlier in this postseason, total of 204.5, and the game goes over. So in these playoffs here in 2026,
4-0.
we have had we have had 4 game sevens and they are 4-0 to the over. Is the market maybe correcting too much? Now, this is 212.5, so it's not 209 or 204 or 200, right? So maybe 212.5 is the market. Like maybe if we didn't have 4 straight overs, this game would be 209.5, but it's 212.5. But does that concern you at all that we've seen 4 overs in 4 game sevens here in these playoffs?
Yeah, because those numbers, those 204s and 209s, were 5, 6, 7 points in some cases lower than earlier in the series.
Hmm.
So it's not just that. I mean, it's all a numbers game, and
Yeah.
212.5 is by far the lowest in the game 7. I mean, you can paint it two different ways. You could say, yeah, 4-0 to the over most recently this year. That's relevant data. Or you could say that 9-8 was 5-8, which is 63% to the under in the modern era
Yeah, that's a good
before
point.
this
Yep.
4-0 run. So
Yep.
I think it's pretty well balanced. I think there should be a downward adjustment in game 7.
hmm
How much that should be, maybe it's been a little bit too much, but maybe it's about right.
Yeah, this year 4-0 to the over. Last year 2-2. 2023 was 2-1 to the over. 2022 3-0 to the under. 2-1 to the under in 2021. 2020 we don't count. 2018, 2019 4-0 to the under. 2018 3-0 to the under. So you can see where, like, we've talked about it so much that now the market has adjusted in years past. The lines, as we talked about, were up already, Mackenzie, up on FanDuel for game number 1 of the NBA Finals, which is coming up on Wednesday at either Oklahoma City or the San Antonio Spurs. And I went on record saying that the spread, which was at the time, I believe it was Thunder -6.5
Yep,
and
4.5.
Spurs -4.5. I said, if there is a game 7, there's going to be movement in that market. And guess what? There has been movement in that market. It is a 1-point adjustment. Thunder 5.5 point favorites over the Knicks. Spurs 3.5 point favorites over the Knicks. And that is, in my opinion at least, purely the game 7 factor baked in.
Yeah. Yeah, historically, Game 7 versus especially a team off a sweep, a very well-rested team, is
Yep.
very much in favor of the well-rested team. I think 1 point is probably the most they can do because power
Mhm.
ratings are going to be power ratings, but I think that is an appropriate amount here. By the way, a prop angle I might want to look at in general, haven't done all the arithmetic about it, but rebounds, because two things happen. One, you get a lot of misses. Remember Kobe Bryant, 6 for 24 in game 7, biggest game 7 in Lakers history, which they won. But he got 15 rebounds because he's not going to come off the court. Wemby's going to play 42 minutes, probably a career
Yeah.
high. SGA is going to play 42 minutes. So they're going to be on the court. There's going to be a lot of misses. I think rebound prop overs is something to look at.
And especially with Wemby, because he, even though he had 10 rebounds last night, he still went under once again. And he has gone under in, I think, in every game of the series, or at least
Except
in
for
the
game
last
1, he had
3 straight.
24. Yeah,
Well,
you forget
no,
about
so-
game
well,
1. There was no close games. Wemby never had more than 9 rebounds. Game 1 was
I
part of
said
this
we
series.
had an over. I said we had overtime. Yes, in one of those games, I get it.
Double
Right, we had a
overtime.
double overtime. We had a double overtime game. But yeah, he had 24 and 17 in games 1 and 2, and then 4, 8, 6 before last night's 10. So his prop, which was like 14 and a half, 13 and a half, it was down to 12 and a half last night. I think if it's 12 and a half or 11 and a half for game number 7, you go over with, because like the market doesn't factor in the situation. The market just factors in, well, he's gone under in 3 straight. Let me lower it, So
For sure.
that's where I think we could take advantage of. One Knicks note, Mackenzie, Mitchell Robinson, according to reports, has a broken pinky finger, and there's no timetable for his return. And to that report, by, with all due respects, like Shams or whoever reported it, like, Mitchell Robinson doesn't shoot the basketball. Mitchell Robinson doesn't make free throws. A broken pinky is not going to change the way Mitchell Robinson plays basketball. Put him up there, put him out there. He'll set screens, right? He'll jump up for rebounds, and he'll foul out of the game.
Yeah.
I don't think a broken pinky is hurting Mitchell Robinson's availability for the NBA Finals.
It might actually help if they're able to give him that like defensive edge, like club that they put on people with broken hands. If he just has like a wider deflective net, that might actually make him slightly more effective.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right, that'll wrap up the NBA conversation as we shift gears and get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, where tonight the Carolina Hurricanes will look to close out the Montreal Canadiens up on FanDuel. Carolina -240, total of 5.5, and Carolina on the puck line -1.5. Mackenzie, with it being an elimination game and with Carolina looking as dominant as they have in this series, I think the way to play this is to go with the alternate puck lines. Like, sure, lay the -1.5, but also take a flyer on -2.5, -3.5, because we know in an elimination game you can get multiple empty net goals. So Hurricanes -2.5 up on FanDuel plus 176. And how about a little sprinkle on Hurricanes -3.5 plus 470?
Makes sense to me. Game one, they had that rest advantage that historically goes against Carolina.
Yep.
Carolina loses. So if you throw that out, they've been just the dominant team, and I think both teams know it.
Yep. And sad news for the Canadiens family as former multiple time Stanley Cup champion Claude Lemieux passed away at the age of 60. So sad news to hear about Claude Lemieux's passing. Won a Stanley Cup with the Montreal Canadiens. Also won two cups with the Devils, I believe, right? So he was just at one of the games in Montreal where he was they light a torch before the game. He was just there in the arena. It was game 3. It was actually game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. He was just there. So it's just sad. According to reports, it was a suicide. So, the most important takeaway from that is there is help out there, people. Please, if you or yourself, anybody needs help, seek help. There are an unlimited number of resources out there to help you if you are suffering and struggling and feel like this is the only way out. I promise you it isn't. You are not alone. It's also a important time in baseball. Yeah, Major League Baseball is still going on, but Mac, it's the College World Series getting underway here this weekend, and no one better to talk College World Series than our very own Jake Hassan.
All right, everybody, welcome in. College baseball season. Finally, we have entered the postseason. We have made it to the tournament. A couple things that I like on this Friday. We get games started in just a few hours here. First pitch of the first game. The chaos starts right at noon Eastern time. So let's get right into it for a couple of game-by-game bets that I already like, and then I'll leave you with some futures here for the weekend that you can jam in before these games get started. But first, some game stuff. I like a bunch of dogs today, actually. There are quite a few at big prices that I'm going to be betting on this first day of the tournament, and I'm going to start here for everybody with the Lamar Cardinals going against Texas A&M. Texas A&M, the number 1 overall seed in their region. They are a top seed, a host seed in the tournament overall, but I think they're very vulnerable. I don't think they're going to win their region. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but I like Lamar in this matchup at plus 340 on the money line at FanDuel. And if you're a little bit skittish, you don't like the outright money line, plus 3.5 on the run line, you got to lay minus 111 for that one. I think that's perfectly fine as well. Texas A&M has dealt with injuries, especially down the stretch. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lamar, Chris Olivier goes for them at 2.66 ERA this year, an opponent batting average of just .180, 103 Ks and just 88 innings pitched. I love Lamar. They won their conference tournament in the Southland Conference. I like the way they look. I think at a big price here, they can absolutely upset Texas A&M and get a head start to potentially winning this bracket. Again, we'll get to some region winners, in just a little bit. Another big dog that I like on this Friday slate. Give me the VCU Rams at plus 430 to beat North Carolina, the 5th overall seed in the tournament, North Carolina. But they are pitching off in this game. And for those who maybe aren't as locked into college baseball as I am, and that's a low bar to clear, but North Carolina is pitching off. They are not pitching their best guy. They are not pitching Jason DeCaro in the Friday game. They're going to try and save him for game 2 against whoever wins the other game in their region. But they're going to save DeCaro for a potential game 2 here, UNC will. And so you get a big price on VCU, who is probably the best number 4 seed in a region in the entire tournament. So at plus 430, I like this spot. I think they can catch UNC while UNC is looking ahead to the winner of Tennessee and East Carolina. Give me the Rams plus 430 on the money line. Give me the Rams plus 3.5 at plus 102 on the run line as well in that one. A couple other dogs I like for this Friday slate. Give me the Troy Trojans to beat Miami. Troy playing really good baseball. They finished 32-29 overall, but they were 6th in strength of schedule on the year in the country. They defeated number 9 Southern Miss this year. They defeated them in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. They also this year beat Georgia. They beat Alabama, a couple of top 7 seeds in the tournament this year. So I like Troy at plus 140. Miami, very inconsistent this year, a team that I just don't trust very much overall. Another dog that I like at about the same price, plus 140. Give me the Tarleton State Texans. Plus 140 over UCSB. This is being priced like the Gauchos are throwing Jackson Flora in game 1. Another team that's pitching off on Friday, the Gauchos, UCSB. They are not throwing ace Jackson Flora. They are trying to save Flora for a game probably against Texas on Saturday. So the Gauchos going with their Saturday starter during the regular season on this Friday night. Tarleton State, I think a plucky team being overwritten here. I like the price. I like getting them at plus 140 as the Gauchos try to mix things up here and try to get ready for Texas on Saturday night. I'll leave you with one more big dog, USC. And you're probably sensing a trend here if you're listening to this. USC, the Trojans, also pitching off tonight. Mason Edwards, one of, if not the best pitcher, probably the second best pitcher in the country behind Jackson Flora. He is going to be pitching on Saturday night as USC tries to save him for their matchup on Saturday. That would be against Texas A&M, but if I'm right, it'll be against Lamar instead, but that's neither here nor there. I do like going with Texas State. Texas State can hit. USC changing up their rotation, maybe changes things up, changes up the vibes. Some of these guys not ready for that spotlight on Friday night. Give me Texas State, a team that has hit very, very well all season long. Before we get to my picks to win it all, and a team that I still think has some value right now in the futures market to win the College World Series, a couple regional winners for everybody in this one. I really like Arizona State to win their region. I think they are going to get over the Lincoln Regional. Nebraska, your plus 110 favorite there, but you can get Arizona State at plus 340, plus 350 right now. They have a superstar in Landon Hairston. I really like their manager, Willie Blomqvist. I think Nebraska is a very vulnerable favorite. This is their Super Bowl. They got here, they hosted a region, and now I think you see some regression from them. So give me Arizona State as the 3 seed to win the Lincoln Regional there. And we just talked about this team. I'll take a shot on them to win the region too. Texas State to win the College Station Regional. I'm just not buying Texas A&M at minus 185. They have too many injuries in the rotation. They have stars in the lineup, but Texas State can slug with the best of them. Texas State can slug with anybody. And if it's going to be a rock fight, a slugfest, I think Texas State will have a real chance to win that region. So at a big price at 12-1, give me Texas State. Give me the Bobcats to win that one. If we're going elsewhere for some regional winners, you want to hunt for some hashtag value out there. Another one that I am going to be on is Arkansas, plus 130 to win the Lawrence Regional. Now, why is this value when they're the favorite? Well, because I think that Arkansas should probably be a minus money favorite to win the Lawrence Regional. Kansas, first time hosting ever. I think the pressure gets to them. I think you see the regression. I think you see them deflate just a tiny bit. So I like Arkansas to win that region. I think you see them come out hot. I think you see them win that region, a team with true championship pedigree. And then to close things out here as we get you ready for the college baseball tournament, if you're just jumping in, you're just parachuting in, you have no futures in this market, I think Florida at 19-1 has some real value. I think that is way too long of a price for a team with 2 of the best pitchers in the country, the reigning SEC pitcher of the year in Aiden King, and they have a pretty good path to the Gators because they're on the side of UCLA, yes, but they win their region, they take care of business. They would get the winner of the Hattiesburg region, who I think is very soft. It would probably be Southern Miss. I think they're a soft team, so I think Florida would then be able to get past them, and then you're in Omaha, and anything can happen. So give me Florida at 19-1 to come out and win the thing. If you have nothing, I think at 19-1, that is a ton of value on the Gators. that is going to do it for me. Follow me on Twitter for all of the college baseball updates all weekend long at the Jake Hassan on Twitter, Hassan_Jake on Instagram. And you can follow my Substack, hassanshacks.substack.com.
Great stuff there from Jake, breaking down the College World Series with some bets for the games coming up today, as well as the regional bets, your futures market, things like that. Keep it locked into betterday.com. We might have some free plays up for you. Jake on Twitter will have some stuff as well. And later on today, this afternoon, as they do each and every Friday, Jake Hassan and Colby Marchio will be streaming their Off the Board podcast on the Better Day YouTube and Better Day Twitter account. So make sure that you listen to that for all the College Baseball World Series stuff from Jake Hassan and Major League Baseball stuff from Colby Marchio. For Mackenzie Rivers and Jake Hassan, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.